Resident Evil 1 makes me want to gouge my own eyes out. It's not a bad game per se, I think some elements of it are quite good actually, but playing it today is not a fun experience at all. I'm going to say a lot of things in this video that will probably piss a lot of people off, but there's no chance that I played through this entire game and I'm not going to talk about it. Buckle up. There will be some minor visual spoilers for Resident Evil 1 in this video. The major thing I want to get out of the way before my big criticisms is the performance. This game's performance is absolutely horrible. Kind of. When you're actually in and playing the game, it runs fine, at least it did for me. However, I experienced more crashes trying to play Resident Evil 1 than I think any single game I've ever played in my entire life. I'm not sure if this is a common problem with old games ported from old consoles to PC, but it certainly is a common problem here. You want to Alt-Tab to look something up? Crash. You want to click out to check the time? Crash. You want to save your game? Crash. You want to pause and go to the bathroom? Crash. You want to open the game? Believe it or not, crash. You want to open a door? This one actually won't crash you, but it does lead me into the next issue I want to talk about. The doors in this game are, to put it simply, the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Part of me loves them, honestly. They were originally needed in the first PlayStation version of the game to act as loading screens, but then they left them in future releases to ensure not to take away from the experience. They add some great suspense at many points, and of course just have a lot of charm. At the beginning at least. Do you have any idea how many doors are in this game? I do. There's 267 of them. Every single door has an animation. The elevators, I believe there's 4 of them, also have their own loading screen animation. Every single door and elevator animation is give or take 8 seconds long. That means that every single time you go through a door you have to watch this. Assuming you go through every door and elevator once, which is not even close to the truth, that means you'll spend about 36 minutes of your playthrough watching these. Let's say you go through every door twice. You probably won't hit every single one twice, but there will likely be many you'll hit upwards of 4 or 5 times throughout your playthrough. That means that number goes up from a cozy 271 with elevators to 542, which is not exact, but it will probably be a bit closer to the actual amount you'll see during your playthrough. Your number may be a bit higher or lower than that, but hey, this is just a fun experiment. Operating under that 542 assumption means you'll spend an hour and 12 minutes of the game watching door and elevator animations. Now, I'm not going to pretend to understand how the original's performance would have been affected by removing these, because I recognize that the original game and system it ran on were both very old. However, including these in the remake and not giving players the option to turn them off or speed them up or something is actually outrageous. Still, the remake is not super new, but it came out 6 whole years after the original, and a lot of developments were made in that time. Sure, it starts charming, but it just gets old so fast. Here, let's head to the safe room and save really quick. 5 door animations and several minutes of running through the hallways later, you are there. You save, you put your ink ribbons back in the item box, and you leave. Oh shit! I forgot my ammo in the item box. 8 seconds. Grab the ammo, turn around, leave. 8 seconds. You going in and out of the save room once is a quarter of a minute, literally just going through doors because you forgot to grab ammo. At many points, I actually find it really comical. Maybe I just don't get it, because I wasn't even born then. I don't know what games were like. Doom came out 3 years prior to the original Resident Evil 1, and they seem to get the whole door thing pretty fast. It is largely a stylistic choice, okay? I respect it a lot, I really do. It takes balls to waste that much of your player's time. But to an unhealthy level, I understand the idea of not compromising on a creative choice because it best serves your vision. However, I'm also allowed to be upset by the sheer amount of my time that was wasted by these goddamn doors. Now on to level design. For the most part, the level and world design is actually really good. The atmosphere is perfect, the mansion and its surrounding zones are creepy, haunting, and above all, puzzling. The whole thing is laid out in a way that makes very little sense, which is intentional. This works for the world and the gameplay, it's designed to make you feel lost. However, I do have some gripes, as usual. There are a couple instances where this level design is even more confusing, but needlessly. One instance, I remember there was a door that I looked at and specifically said out loud, "There is for sure a boss through that door." It was this big, ridiculous, ornate set of double doors. I wish I was recording my mic. I shit you not, I said out loud to myself, there is 1000% a boss through there. I geared up, I came back, I tried the door, and what do you know? The knob's broken. Okay, fine, I'll bite. When I was looking at the map earlier, I found another way in just because I was looking around. So I made my way around through the full 48 seconds of door opening cutscenes, and what do you know? There was a big ass snake boss in there. He was a pushover, which I was fine with. It wasn't a big deal for me. It was a relatively quick fight, and I truly did not mind. I enjoyed it. I grab everything from inside the room, and I head out the door. Oh, actually, I try to head out the door, but the knob is broken on this side too. The door does not function from either side. Mechanically, this is a wall. This is a wall with two doorknobs that don't fucking do anything. You know what that is? That's game design, baby. At the very least, they could have said the door is blocked from the other side, or something like that. This would get the same exact message across. You'd go around and still maybe be surprised by a boss. Then you wouldn't have to take the long, stupid way you came in through. You could just leave and go on with your life. I get that finding another way in is a puzzle on its own, but why does the door have to be broken from the inside of the room too? I'd be less pissed off if it was just a one-way door. It's not like you come back here anyway. In fact, there's actually other one-way doors in the game. It's not like they decided that it just didn't fit for Resident Evil 1. This is the only door in the entire game that does not work at all. It's the only one. It makes no sense. It's a pointless inclusion, and it feels like it's only here to frustrate the player and pad the runtime a bit with another pointless 15-minute detour. I recognize I only came up with one example to back up my annoyance here, and I honestly don't care, because this had such a profoundly baffling impact on my playthrough that I simply couldn't just not bring it up here, because it really bothered me for whatever reason. Otherwise, though, the mansion is one of the best settings in the entire series. Moving on. Perhaps some people will agree with me when I say that the camera and controls in this game are abominable. Like, truly awful. They're so bad. Oh my god. I'm sure it was a lot more intuitive on the original PlayStation controller it was made for, but I did not play this with a PlayStation controller, so, you know, maybe it's my fault, okay? I'd like to go on record saying I understand how big of a deal this game was when it released. I understand how influential it was for the time, and how its creation led to some of the most important technical game developments of all time. But holy shit. Trying to navigate the mansion's hallways with the camera changing to a different corner of the hallway every 14 steps is nauseating. I mean that. It's really sickening to watch. With the angle constantly changing, your directional inputs also need to change. You can keep holding the same direction to keep moving the way you were before the camera changed, but sometimes that's not good enough. Either the direction you need to go will change, or you'll make the slightest movement on one of your keys or sticks, and your character will start to book it in the opposite direction. It makes exploration annoying, and combat even worse. Perhaps this is just a limitation of the time. I truly am not sure if this was a style thing, or simply what they could pull off. I do not know. I have no idea. I'm not going to pretend to understand, like the rest of this video. Regardless, it's annoying. That's all. Moving on. One of my biggest problems with the game is the inventory. Like a few of the other games, you have a choice of which character you play the game as. To vary the experience a bit, each character's story is a bit different. They contain a separate batch of weapons, and the order of things as well as some events differ slightly. They do this obviously to give a reason to come back to the game, which is all well and good, makes sense, right? This was my first experience with the game, so I wanted to go in as blind as possible. I knew some of the story beats just because I'd done research on this for some of my other videos, but apart from that, I was going in pretty much blind. I didn't even know you had a choice between the two characters. I ended up choosing Chris Redfield. I'm familiar with both him and Jill through some of the other games, but in the end, I chose Chris since I played RE3, which has Jill in it, more recently than any game that featured Chris. Keep this in mind. It will come back in a bit. Right off the bat, it was fine. I got the pistol pretty early on, as intended, but I attempted to save ammo as aggressively as possible by using the knife. I played for about an hour before I realized that the knife was a worthless piece of garbage. Not only does it do pretty much zero damage to enemies, but you can't even use it to defend yourself from being grabbed. It's not even like this is just because it's an old game, and therefore it doesn't have some mechanics from the newer games, because you actually can counter grabs, but you can only do it with a special dagger that are consumables, and you can find at certain points throughout the game. That makes the survival knife that you start the game with an entirely useless item. It can be used if you have the patience to make it work, but at a casual level, it's a waste of time. It has no practical application and therefore is a waste of an inventory slot, something that will become a lot more obvious to a catastrophic degree the further you get in Resident Evil 1. Not only is the knife entirely dead weight, it's entirely dead weight for quite a long time. This game has very little outright direction, which is okay. Only a couple of times will someone or something directly tell you where you need to go, so a lot of the game will contain backtracking and mindlessly exploring rooms and hallways you've already been. Because of this, it's easy to get lost and typically pretty difficult to find where exactly the game wants you to go. Again, this is completely okay. For what feels like a long time after starting the game, you will not be able to get rid of the knife. With absolutely no clue where any safe room is, you'll be stuck with this useless knife until you find an item box to throw it in, since you have no choice to drop items in this game either. This will become a common theme, given just how many items this game throws at you. There are an obscene amount of puzzles in this game. These puzzles are spread across many different areas and will often involve finding a specific item somewhere in the game for use in a completely detached puzzle elsewhere. The whole game is sort of structured like one big puzzle box, which I would enjoy a lot if so many aspects of it weren't so frustrating. Anyways, because of this structure, you will often have like 5 or more keys that may be used at any given time. One option is to sacrifice inventory slots and just carry a few of these key items around. This means that you'll likely not have room for new items you find when exploring, even if you're only carrying one gun and some ammo, but you will be able to complete puzzles once you actually find them. Your other option is to leave these key items in your item box until you find one of the puzzles you need. This will free up space for your items you can find along the way or another weapon if you choose, but it also means you'll have to backtrack quite a bit to escort the item from the item box to wherever you need it. This is how I ended up playing, which was incredibly tedious. You see, the killing blow to this whole ordeal is that the character I chose, Chris, actually is even worse at this than the other. After being utterly blown away by how poor inventory management seemed to be in this game, I decided to do a little research. As it turns out, Chris is actually worse at, everything. Many people seem to consider him the hard mode of the game, so, my fault, I guess. He has 6 inventory slots compared to Jill's 8, which might not sound like a big difference, but 2 in this game is huge. Chris is slower, has less powerful weapons, but apparently he does have more health, which it's something, I guess. This wouldn't be such a grating inclusion if it were communicated to the player whatsoever. There's absolutely no indication that Jill is any different statistically to Chris unless you play both of them or just look it up. On its own, this wouldn't even be that big of a problem, but on top of all the other shit creates a collection of terrible choices that are all amplified by one another. I've been very negative in this video, so let's talk about a couple of things I like, shall we? For one, the cutscenes are very well done for the time. The ones that are not just like in-game cutscenes are notably low resolution and have this dirty, like snuff film-like quality that I think does the game a lot of favors. I mentioned this earlier briefly, but the setting is absolutely amazing. The Spencer Mansion and its surrounding area are very well put together from both a gameplay and world-building perspective, and it is extremely creepy. To this day, it stands out as one of the most iconic video game locations of all time, not just within Resident Evil. I'll lump the music and sound design comfortably in a category together. They are both just really good at building atmosphere and drawing you into the world. I was very impressed with how good the sounds were given when this game was released. The last point that I have written down here just says that I've played newer games with worse animations. So that's probably a good thing. I don't know, take that for what you will. Anyways, that's just about everything I feel the need to say about Resident Evil 1. I've poorly covered the remake of 2 and 3, maybe I'll come back to them at some point to do them some better justice, but now I can finally take on RE4, so expect that sometime relatively soon. As always, thank you for watching. Sorry if this one came across as sort of ranty. Regardless though, I hope you enjoyed. I'd really appreciate a like, comment, maybe a little subscribe action, totally up to you though. One last thing before I close this one out. I just want to take a quick moment and thank you all for such a wonderful year. At the start of 2023, I had around 500 subscribers, I think. Now I'm sitting just under 7,000. By more metrics than just YouTube, this was a crazy year for me, as I'm sure it was for most people, but I really can't thank you all enough for the support that you've shown me. My only hope moving forward is that 2024 is an even better year for the channel and for its content. So, thank you. You all have a wonderful night and a happy new year, and I'll catch you all in the next one.